Good morning. My name is Berraf Lina Dalel. I am a former student at the University of Algiers too, as well as a current PhD student at the University of Szeged in Hungary. So first of all, thank you for having me. I will hopefully be briefly giving you an overview on the article that I wrote for this occasion, which is entitled Instagram as a Heterotopia of the 21st Century, Representation of Women on Instagram in the Post-MeToo period. Because of the time limit, unfortunately, I will be skipping over the introduction to Michel Foucault, who I trust anybody in the humanities will already know and be familiar with. But what I would like to focus on today is his 6 principles of heterotopias as a methodology. He came up with those for a lecture that he gave to architecture students entitled Of Other Spaces. In addition to those, I will also be using new historicism, most specifically the juxtaposition of text and texts, as well as the feminist question of women's representation and treatment. In brief, in Of Other Spaces, Foucault argues that the problem of the modern era is with space rather than with time. He starts off by talking about how in our modern era, space is being desanctified, but he also talks about how some oppositions between spaces are still standing, such as the separation between the private space and the public space, the family and the social space, as well as the space of leisure, for example, and the space of work. Here, I would actually argue that these oppositions that he's talking about no longer actually stand because we are moving away from what Lev Monovich would call the home mode. What is meant by home mode is the use of social media and photography in the way that the people from the early 90s, for example, were using it. Think about how mass photography started, which was by people actually wanting to capture those big moments of life, such as birthdays, or weddings, and it was just for capturing the moment for themselves and for their families and loved ones. Nowadays, it's more like of an anything under the sun mode rather than a home mode at this point. But Foucault basically describes 2 types of spaces in this article. The internal and the external, and he wants to focus on the external, which he divides into 2, the utopia and the heterotopia, which we'll be focusing on. So he goes on to highlight 6 principles of the latter. We will now basically juxtapose those into the Instagram world and how it functions. Actually, the first one of these is a principle that all societies basically will, no matter what, create heterotopias, which can be divided or classified under heterotopias of crisis and heterotopias of deviation. So here I would argue that in order to go viral on Instagram, one is bound to act, and I emphasize on act, in a deviant or crisis-like manner, because of the fact that Instagram is a place where deviance, such as harmful pranks or crisis, such as, let's say, a mental breakdown, is actually good for the amount of exposure that actual person is going to get. We often say that there is no such thing as a bad buzz, because basically going viral, even for negative reasons, is going to have a positive impact on the engagement of the account, and therefore actually lead to more followers and more monetary gain. So the second principle is that a heterotopia's function may change with time. So I think that this is pretty self-explanatory, but once again, we can observe that there is a clear move from a social media app that was put in place for people to share their everyday lives with others to a more monetized kind of commercial space. The third one is that heterotopias needs to juxtapose a single real place with several other spaces. And here it is actually the case with Instagram, because the real space which is being juxtaposed in this instance, is basically the actual space or place where the event is taking place, where the picture is being captured. And that, before being posted, is going to be posed, angled, and actually heavily edited. And that real space at the end of the day will not actually even match the space which is shown on the final Instagram post. So we have a real place, but it is also juxtaposed with several other spaces, depending on the angle, depending on a lot of different things, like how it's edited once again. The fourth principle is that heterotopias create heterochronies. Simply put, this means that time may appear to flow differently than it actually does. If you have ever scrolled through your homepage or through even stories for a certain amount of time, you will know that what may feel as though it's 5 minutes for you is actually an hour or a few hours, and vice versa. Some actually say that they have been scrolling for hours and then actually it's been 10 minutes. So time is perceived and seen differently. And there's also the fact that through posts, basically you can see your past, your present, but also you can, because there is this component of posting and editing, you can actually plan your future as well and how your future will look. The fifth one is that heterotopias are spaces which appear to welcome you inside, but at the same time are also closed. In the case of Instagram, one's public profile could be said to be an opening into a person's private life, but we have to keep in mind that because the user is the one who chooses what others can or cannot see, what should be posted or what shouldn't, this opening is actually an illusion. We are led into the life of that person, but just as much as that person allows us to be. So we are inside that person's private life, but we are also outside of it. So the last principle is that heterotopias represent two extreme versions of our lives. Foucault argues that there are two types. Once again, the heterotopia of illusion and that of compensation. And isn't those perfect feeds that we see all over Instagram just an illusion and a way to compensate for the perfect life that we cannot obtain? Here, Instagram appears to fulfill actually all 6 of those principles, making it a heterotopia. Now, you would tell me, well, how is the Me Too movement and Instagram, or this heterotopia that we're calling Instagram, connected? Well, let me tell you, the hashtag #MeToo has been shared on public Instagram posts alone, and we're talking about public posts and not private, more than 3 million times as of December 2021. Furthermore, Instagram themselves actually cited the #MeToo hashtag as part of their top advocacy hashtags in their 2018 overview and retrospective. And actually, they're basically using it to claim that the website can be used as a tool for other people to voice their opinions and make their voice heard. So there is also this political layer to it. So yes, the popularity of the hashtag is a great thing, but concretely, did it change anything for American women? Well, yes and no. While the hashtag brought comfort and support for the victims that are reading similar stories to theirs online, therefore not feeling alone anymore, statistics actually show that the numbers of reports of sexual assault actually stayed the same between 2015 and 2018. Actually, I would argue that because of the Me Too movement, which highlighted how predators such as Weinstein and others, those aggressors, can actually roam free for years and years before the justice system does anything. This actually amplified the distrust in the justice system, if anything. So I would actually argue that the Instagram is actually a heterotopia, but it is the heterotopia par excellence in contemporary time, because just like the ship for Foucault or the boat, it is a floating piece of space, a place without a place that exists by itself, that is closed in onto itself, and at the same time is given over to the infinity of here, not the sea, but the internet. So in conclusion, Instagram can indeed be considered as a heterotopia. While the concrete impact of the hashtag #MeToo is limited, it is still used by many to this day. You can find thousands of posts per day on that hashtag. And it is still providing people with a sense of community. And the lack of concrete impact on real life may actually be explained by the fact that it is a heterotopia par excellence, meaning that Instagram is a place that exists, yes, but it also exists outside of our world and mostly exists in that place, making it pretty hard for anything that happens within that bubble to reach the outside world, the real world, in a significant manner. So that's it. Thank you for your attention. I would be very happy to answer any inquiries, either here or via email. You can always contact me. Once again, thank you for your attention and have a wonderful day.